Hello friends, I'm Britt, and in this video I'm going to be talking about some mushrooms that I've crocheted over the past couple weeks. So this video is all about the mushrooms I've crocheted. I do want to give you a heads up and tell you that this isn't a tutorial on how to crochet a mushroom, but I will be referencing the tutorial that I used and talking a little bit about my experience, as well as showing off some of the color combos that I tried out for the mushroom pattern. The reason why I decided to crochet mushrooms is that I have a couple friends with birthdays coming up and they both like mushrooms, so I thought it'd be really cute to crochet a mushroom for them for their birthday. But then as I was working on the pattern, I had all these other ideas for different color combinations that would be fun to try out. So I crocheted 4 mushrooms and I want to show them all off to you and let you know how the process went. When I had the idea to crochet a mushroom, I was curious if it would be able to stand up on its own, because the shape of a mushroom is that the base is smaller than the mushroom cap that hangs like an umbrella over it, and I was curious if you could crochet something that would actually stand up on its own. And I did find a pattern from MummaJCrochet, and she has a very detailed video on how to do just that. I will link her video in the description. There is a part 1 and a part 2 for the mushroom pattern that I used, and she does a great job explaining the process. Every time I've crocheted one of these mushrooms, I've just put her video on, and I've probably watched each one like 10 times by now, but I just put her video on and crochet along with her because she does do the tutorial in real time. Now, she is a fairly fast crocheter, so I do have to pause it a lot before I catch up, but it's a great explanation, and I like having it on as I crochet because it helps me keep track of where I'm at. I could write down the pattern and just do it from my notes. I know it, I have it down pat enough to where I could do that, but I like just going along with the video because then I don't have to keep track of which row I'm on. I'm just following along with her. Also, this is the type of pattern where I really want to pay attention to it, so you do have to count a lot to keep track of how many single crochets you've done and which round you're on. So for me personally, when I'm crocheting one of these mushrooms, I have to give it my complete attention and be counting my stitches, otherwise I'll get goofed up. Other people might be able to watch a show while they crochet this, but for me, every time I've done one of these mushrooms, I've had to give it my full attention. I'm going to show you some of the mushrooms, and then I'll talk more about the things that I've learned along the way in crocheting them. I'll show you first of all my first attempt at a mushroom, which was this little guy. I think it's really cute. I really like this yarn for the base because it is kind of realistic in terms of what color a mushroom would actually be in real life. This yarn for the base was given to me. Someone was getting rid of this yarn that works with my mom, so my mom passed the yarn along to me. So I don't know what brand it is, and I just estimated what hook size to use with it. I ended up using a 5.5mm crochet hook for this because it looked the same to me as the thickness of this yarn up here, which is, I love that yarn mid green. And this I also used a 5.5mm crochet hook for, and it seemed to work fine. Now, this is the smallest mushroom of all the ones that I've done, so I guess that this yarn for the base maybe could have used a 5mm crochet hook. I think the yarn is maybe just a little thinner than the other yarns that I've used, but I think it's really cute, and for a first attempt it turned out really nice. This is also the color that I used for the ribbing on my sweater vest, if you watched that video. The spots on the top, I think that I made them too long and a little bit too spread out. I think that they look better when they're condensed, just like on the top part here, and when they're a little bit shorter, but it's fine. The pattern that I used has you crochet the top part and the base separately. So for the top part, you're basically just working in increasing rounds until you have this shape, this size. And also for the base, you're starting down here and working in the round, and then you're working up. So you're doing increases and decreases as you work the base. Because once you get up here, you're doing a bunch of increases until it has the exact same number of stitches as the mushroom cap does. So the mushroom cap and the base should end up with 54 stitches around. Now the tutorial that MummaJCrochet did, she is using much smaller yarn. I think she said she was using like a 2.5mm crochet hook, and I used a 5.5mm crochet hook. So this is much bigger than the sample one that she did in her video. And this stands at about 4.5 inches tall. But like I said, this is also the smallest mushroom that I crocheted. My second attempt was this one, and this is your classic red and white colors for mushrooms. These are the colors that she used in the tutorial video. I love the way that the red and the white pop. This is classic mushroom colors. I don't know that red and white mushrooms exist in real life. At least I've never seen one. I do really love how this turned out, and I liked how I did the spots on the top better for this one. I did do this whole mushroom cap in red and have to frog it and start over because for some reason I really goofed it up and I had way more stitches for the mushroom cap than the base. So that was a little bit frustrating, but I wanted to do it right, and it was not going to work unless the stitches were pretty much the exact same quantity, and I'm glad I went through that process. The pattern for this mushroom, you do stuff it with poly-fil. So the skills that you'll need for working this pattern are chaining, single crocheting, working in the round, counting your stitches, increasing and decreasing, and sewing, because you do have to sew the top and the bottom together, as well as do some sewing for the spots on the top. There are two things that I learned while working on this mushroom pattern. The first thing is that MummaJCrochet instructs to do the slipknot and chain 2 for your foundation, and then single crochet 6 times into the first chain. And I haven't never done that method before. She also said you could do the magic ring method instead, but as I've been working through all of these mushrooms, I found that I kind of prefer doing the chain 2 and then single crocheting into the first chain and pulling it tight, because that was so much easier for me than the magic ring. I don't know what it is about the magic ring, but it always kind of, it's just a little bit tricky for me. And I never totally felt 100% confident in doing it. I mean, I do it and it works, but I definitely prefer the method that she uses in her videos. So I'm definitely going to take that away for future creations. The second thing that I learned from doing this tutorial is to use my yarn tail as a stitch marker as I'm working in the round. So the tail that you have after you do your slip knot, I just kind of tucked it in the first stitch that I did for each round, and that was how I held my place, and it was so much easier than using a stitch marker. I had never even been aware of this method before, but I'm definitely going to use it in future creations, as I said for the other method, because it was just really convenient and easy, and I really liked it a lot. This mushroom is taller than the first one I showed you. It's about 5.5 inches tall. So I think that's in part to the thickness of the yarn that I used for the base of the mushroom. And for this one I used I Love This yarn in the color white and Yarn Bee in the color red, and for both of these I used a 5.5mm hook. Another thing that I'll note about the tutorial that MummaJCrochet posted is that she advises to use cotton yarn. For all of the mushrooms I used acrylic yarn and it worked just fine, so I don't think it really matters as much whether it's cotton or acrylic. I can't speak for any other yarn type, but in terms of acrylic, it works just fine. Then the third mushroom I crocheted is this one. And for this I used the yarn I Love This yarn in the color Spring Green with a 5.5mm crochet hook. This yarn may also look familiar to you because this is the yarn that I used for my sweater vest. So my sweater vest was this yarn, and then the ribbing was this color. So if you've watched my sweater vest video, you know what I'm talking about. And I wanted to try like an unconventional mushroom. So this kind of looks like a tie-dye mushroom to me. I thought it was like a little bit fun and trippy. I did do some spots on top. You can't really tell unless you look closely, but I did them in white. And yeah, I really like how this turned out as well. It's about the same size as the red one at 5.5 inches tall, and I think it's fun. With some of these mushrooms, I wasn't sure if the mushroom cap would be big enough for the base. I'll show you a picture of what I mean, but I was thinking for some of them that maybe it would be too small or it wouldn't fit right, but once I went around and sewed it all up, it actually did turn out just fine, and kind of stretched and bent the base under. I don't really know if that makes sense. This fourth and final mushroom that I made, which is the green one. This one reminds me of Mario Kart, and especially next to this one. These are my Mario mushrooms. So yeah, like I was saying, for this one I felt that the mushroom cap was going to be too small for this white part, but once I sewed it together, it looks just fine, and I love how it curves up under here. You really don't need much poly-fill for the top part at all. You basically just stuff it up here. I do recommend having like a good bit of poly-fill in this part right here to keep the cap firm and nice and tall on it. This one kind of, I feel like, shrinks down a little bit because I didn't put enough poly-fill in this part. So when it's standing up, you only see like the large part of the base versus like this part where it thins out. Alright, so they do stand on their own. I know that in my hand sometimes they tip over and it's hard to believe that they would actually be freestanding, but if you do kind of mess around with them a little bit, they will stand up on their own. Sometimes when I set them down, they'll fall over and you just kind of have to like flatten out the bottom and try it again and just kind of like play with it a little bit. In the pattern, there is one round that you do near the base where you are crocheting into the back loop only, and it creates this ridge around the base so that it kind of like helps it stand up a little bit. So I'll show you a picture or a video of me getting them all to stand up so you can kind of see what I mean. Alright, so I'm gonna set these up and show you how they stand. Put that one there. You can kind of see it's a little bit wobbly, but it does stand on its own. Got this one. Okay, there we go. Ta-da! Another thing that I think you could do with these mushrooms that I thought about doing but ultimately decided not to is crocheting little circles in the white rather than doing this, what I call the sprinkle method, where you're just stitching little bits of white on it. I thought about doing like small circular crochet spots to sew on top of it, but ultimately I decided that that was going to be more work than I really felt like doing, that the sprinkle method looked just fine. I think if you did do spots, you'd probably want to do them in like different sizes, maybe doing like a magic ring or something with like 6 single crochets and then maybe another one with like 6 double crochets or something like that, if you wanted to give it that like spot factor. But just with like the scale of it, I did not feel like doing all of that, and then that would add more weight to the top, and I didn't want to make it more top heavy than it already was. The first one of these mushrooms I crocheted, it probably took me like 5 hours to do, but now that I've been repetitively crocheting them, I can get them done in about 2 hours. Like this one took me about 2 hours to put together, whereas this one took me like 5. Oh, I think I forgot to say that the yarn I used for this top part here is Yarn Bee Kale, and I used a 5.5mm crochet hook for this, and this is the same I Love That Yarn white that I used for the red one. I'm really excited to give these to my friends. I think I'm going to give this one to my friend Annie, and I think I might give this one to my friend Emma. I hope her dog doesn't use it as a chew toy though. I'm going to tell her when I give it to her that I will cry if her dog chews this up. I do plan to make more of these red ones though, because I've shown a few people that I've been making these mushrooms and they really love them. I think I'll make a red one for my grandma. The other two I don't know what I'm going to do. I might give them away, sell them, or just put them around my house for decoration. Alright, well, leave me a comment if you have any questions about this mushroom pattern. I'll try to answer the best I can, but definitely check out my description. Thank you so much to MummaJCrochet for uploading this amazing mushroom pattern. I was looking all over YouTube for such a thing, and her video was the one that seemed to be what I wanted the most. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye!